It seems like it doesn't matter how long I've been shooting for, I always seem to fall into some sort of trap that costs me a lot of time. I guess that's all part of the process, but for some of us, it could mean that we give up and leave photography behind for good. So I thought back about what the worst traps were for me that could be a problem for you guys. And I've come up with 3 things that you really need to be aware of before they cost you as much time as they cost me. In the last few years, one of these things has been the absolute catalyst for me being able to find my photographic style again, and I think it could do the same for you. But before we get to that, I'm going to tell you about something a little bit more simple. Once I'd started shooting pretty seriously, I was trying to find how to take the best picture possible. Use a prime lens, maybe even a tripod. Try and get the sharpest picture you possibly can. This is what I'd seen. Super sharp images where you could pretty much count the spots on someone's face if you wanted to do that. And once I'd started to take these super sharp shots, I was thinking, maybe this is it then. Maybe I'm taking really great photos now with everything else that I do too. But maybe you can see why this is trap number 1. I was placing too much value on one aspect of photography that actually kind of didn't matter that much at all. It wasn't until I went back to my roots and started to shoot with more texture and movement that I realized how little clarity and sharpness mattered to me. Now, of course, if you're hired to take pictures of something specific and it needs to look high quality, maybe sharpness is what you need. But if you want to shoot more artistically and create more feeling in your image, that's where sharpness and clarity kind of fall to the wayside. Now, that's not to say that no image that is sharp is good or artistic, but when you're sort of pursuing more textured and interesting images that aren't just subscribing to this standard way of shooting, it's a more fun and exciting and adventurous way of shooting that generally produces more feeling and authenticity. So once I'd finally left all this shit behind, I sort of started feeling like I was rediscovering myself as a photographer. And while it might not be sharpness for you that is the problem, there might be something else that you feel like you're a little bit too married to and is holding you back. Of course, throughout my journey, I went down a rabbit hole that pretty much all of us go down at some point. And some of us managed to shuffle our way back out of that hole, and some of us are left with our legs flailing in the air. Around 2020, yes, 2020, I started to get into all different kinds of film cameras. I had Olympus OM1s and Yashica T4s out the wazoo. I was learning about different kinds of lenses and rare cameras and different kinds of film, and I thought it was making me a better photographer. So when I could finally leave the house, I had one of the best film cameras available in my hand, the Pentax 6-7. But I was pretty shocked to find out that I hadn't transformed into a world-class photographer over lockdown. In fact, I was still pretty much as shit as I was before. I didn't realize it then, but it kind of makes sense. If you put an idiot in a F1 car, then it's probably going to go up in flames at some point. If you put an F1 driver in a Toyota Corolla, they're still going to tear it up. See what I'm saying? Focus on you, yourself, how you photograph, more so than what's in your hand. And it really just can't be overstated how important learning and developing your style is in comparison to buying really good gear. And that's why I spent so much of the last few years learning as much as I can about the things that I'm passionate about. And if you feel the same way, then you should take a look at today's sponsor, Skillshare. For instance, I love finding new ways to be more creative because I'm always making new videos or shooting a new project. So the Creative Toolkit, 6 techniques to spark original ideas, looks perfect for this. But whether you want to learn languages, woodwork, crafts and DIY, Skillshare is the biggest online community for creatives. So if you feel like giving something new a go, or you want to hone in on your photography even more, then click the link in the description and the first 500 people will get a 1-month free trial. So get started today, and thank you so much Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's get on to the last and biggest trap of them all. I don't know how many of you were shooting like 10 years ago, but there was actually a period where Instagram was actually pretty good. You could start to build a bit of a community, and your photographs were actually shown to people that actually followed you. I don't want to make it sound perfect because it definitely wasn't, but it was a totally different world to the social media of today. I'd post street photography pretty regularly, and people that were actually into street photography would find my work, and then bigger profiles that shared work would share my work. And of course, that can still happen today to a degree, but overall, there's something seriously wrong with the whole platform today. These days, unless you post twice a day, every day, then only 10% of your followers are going to see your work, and you'll be lucky if any non-followers see your work at all. And look, if you've got that much high quality work, then go ahead and post it. But generally speaking, that's not really how creative works work. Most of the time, a great photographer would be happy if they made 1 to 2 really good photos a week. But Instagram needs to be fed with content consistently and regularly. So you've got a bit of a choice. Post mediocre photos regularly, shoot a shitload so that you can try and get loads of good pictures for Instagram, or, and this is the worst and probably most common one, you completely change your style to feed the algorithm. That's right, you've seen other photographers doing well, so you start to shoot like them. It kind of doesn't really work for you, and then you go and do something that's maybe more palatable, like shoot nice landscapes or sunsets, and maybe you get a few likes, but like, of course people like a sunset, everyone likes a sunset. All of this while losing what it was that you loved about photography, and not succeeding in blowing up anyway. So what's the point? If this is you, I'm not judging you. That was me too at some point. But it does beg the question, how do we escape it? Well, you've got to go back to your roots and shoot what it is that you actually love to shoot. Of course, you can still post things on social media, but it shouldn't be what determines how you feel about yourself as a photographer. Then move towards what is way more important, making zines or books or prints, actually physically being involved with photography. You should try and meet real people within your local photography community, and also, try and put your own exhibitions on or enter into other exhibitions. All of that is 10 times more valuable than any Instagram clout that you would ever get. And let's face it, I'm not dissing Instagram photographers. There are a lot of people with a big following that are brilliant photographers, and I'm really glad for those people that they got big, because they would have deserved it. But there are also people whose work that you see who are big, and you think, that's not good. It's not good work. And this is the point. You don't necessarily get big on Instagram for being the best photographer. You get big on Instagram for posting a certain type of content that feeds the algorithm, because that's all it cares about. It doesn't care about you as an artist or photographer. For me, the biggest change was getting my work out into the real world and sort of rediscovering what it was that I enjoyed about showing my work, rather than trying to change the kind of work I did just to please the algorithm. So there we have it, the traps that I fell into so you don't have to. But that's not all you need to know. If you want to shoot with more texture and movement, then you should go ahead and watch this next video. But for now, thanks for watching and take care.